Chat. Welcome to the show. We're getting some really interesting articles today, especially about transgender people, which is a topic that I haven't touched in quite a while. I think it's been more than a couple of months. And it's mostly since Donald Trump managed to win in the United States and he killed USAD. Elon Musk managed to take over Twitter. Transgender people haven't been that much in the conversation. Like, notice that the moment you stop seeing people like trying to push pronouns and stuff, like the whole stuff just gets normalized. Like, most people just don't care, right? Like, if transgender people act like homosexuals, in other words, like they just keep to themselves and they have their own communities and do their own stuff, almost nobody cares, right? But whenever you have like, oh, you need to respect the pronoun, the holy sacred pronoun. Let's bring the transgender person to the school to tell stories to the children. That's when you notice that people start caring a little bit. Not in the way that they expect, right? And so why am I caring today is the question. Well, today I'm caring because apparently a man in Switzerland was arrested for stating a known scientific fact. And it's a scientific fact that I learned in med school. Like, in fact, I remember it's like one of the first things that I learned in the anatomy class. And it's kind of important to know because it has to do with osteology. Osteology is the science that deals with the bones, right? And so this person has said that skeletons reflect gender. And this is absolutely true, and it's not just a medical fact, but it's also something that criminal investigators use. Like, if they find a skeleton in someone's backyard, a criminal investigator would actually know quite a few things about that skeleton. He would probably know, like, the age, approximately, like, not by the day, but they would kind of guess the age of the person when they died. They can know if it's a male and a female, and this is also very taboo and something that a lot of people on Twitter were upset. But yeah, they can also tell the race. Again, it's not with 100% accuracy. Like, obviously, there is wiggle room, and there may be like a couple of things that are not always consistent because it's kind of how anatomy is. It's not like a mathematical science, but there is the possibility. And let me give you an example on how you can tell if it's the skeleton of a woman or if it's the skeleton of a man. And I gotta say, like, unfortunately, I had to actually look for this picture, even though it was one of the first pictures that I saw in my biology book, in my medical atlas. Google seems to do a really good job at hiding it. So, like, maybe there aren't that many people looking, or maybe they're using, like, their fairness AI, as they call it, in order to make it very difficult for people to find this picture. But this one is actually really simple to understand, and it's very easy to get why the male pelvis is actually different than the female pelvis. Because in the female, a baby comes out, right? And so, as you can see, like, the difference is that the gap of the male pelvis is a lot tighter than that of a female pelvis. I think like 5-year-olds know this, right? Like, hips don't lie, it's called. So why is a man in Switzerland getting arrested for making a Facebook post which states a medical fact? And this is why I titled the video the Transgender Inquisition, because at this point it's a faith that actually requires an inquisition in order to be enforced. If you're going to arrest people for speaking truth, like, it's fucking insane. So, by the way, like, Switzerland is also one of the few nations in Europe which allows drawing lolis, right? Like, what's the name? Shadman, right? Like, he's the one that got into trouble with Keemstar for drawing what appears to be like Keemstar's daughter. Like, that's the accusation, right? He's from Switzerland, and it's legal for him to do it there. So, like, a nation that allows all this, apparently, draws a line at stating scientific fact. And apparently there's little coverage of this story, the article goes. But in 2020, he responded to a Facebook post by Swiss National Council member Andreas Garler on the controversy, which includes some academics in the United States, which are now claiming that you really cannot gouge the sex of an individual from their skeleton. Now, the reason they're doing this is that, as I mentioned before, like science, it's not like when it comes to medical science, it's not like a mathematical equation. Like you don't get people coming out over the assembly line. Like, there are indeed like some biological differences here and there. And there is a possibility that you may have like a woman which has a male pelvis, right? And you can see why that is a problem, because the moment the woman gets pregnant, like, she's not going to be able to give birth naturally. Birth is actually a very violent act, because I don't know how many of you know, but the head of the baby actually gets compacted in order to go through the vagina. And so, like, the space is incredibly tight. And if you have a woman that actually is born with a male pelvis, which is what we call a genetical defect, like that woman in a medieval period would die during childbirth. Now, just because there are a very small percentage of people that have like a different anatomy, that does not mean that we have like a new classification. Like, for instance, there are people that are born with one arm, but we don't say that human beings, we don't say, we can't say human beings have two arms, because some have one. Like just because the fact that there is an exception, and there are people that are born with one arm, or there are people that are born with three arms, like, that is actually something that could happen, very rarely, right? We don't say that, oh, well, there are people that have three arms, and so we cannot say. No, like, usually what we do in medicine is that if you have like a 98% case, or even like a 90% case, you call that normal, and the way you say normal is because it normalizes, right? It's expected, basically. And something that's abnormal, it's called pathological. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, right? But in this case, it's pathological, because if you know that a woman has a male pelvis, then when she gets pregnant, she's definitely going to need a cesarean, and so, like, she needs to be very close to a hospital when she's about to give birth, because otherwise she can die. So like, these are important things to know, and it's also important for the criminal investigators that find the skeleton to know if the person was male or female. And so when a scientist, right, like when an American scientist is saying, oh, well, we can't know, or, well, there are people that are such and such, what they're basically saying is that, well, they're corrupt, right? Like, they're not basically like trying to understand reality, and they're coming up with this. It's kind of like a creationist that believes the earth is 6,000 years old. And so whatever he does is he needs to arrive to this conclusion, right? Like, that, for them, the hypothesis isn't something that can be true or false. For them, the hypothesis is the conclusion, and then they have to rationalize like how they can get there. And this is what's happening in America. Like, back in 2020, there were a lot of scientists that basically said, yeah, you can't tell race based on a body, you can't tell genetics based on a body, and you can't tell sex based on a body, which is not true. Now, again, it's somewhere in the middle. Like, sometimes, like, you can't really accurately predict the ethnicity by seeing a skeleton with 100%. But I guarantee to you, like, if you have like a criminology case and you need to link the skeleton to a crime, yeah, no, like, they can usually predict the victim. Yeah, there are people born with a tail, right? But like, we're not going to say that, well, you can't make the claim that human beings have no tail because there are a couple of individuals that are born with one. Like, that's ridiculous, right? But yeah, anyway, and this is not Britain, this is Switzerland. Like, it's important to point out. So they basically said in 2022 that they posted on a Facebook post that the wind instrument repairman thought that such claims were unfounded, and posted a comment that said, if you dig up LGBTQI people after 200 years, you'll only find men and women based on their skeleton. Everything else is a mental illness promoted through the curriculum. Now, again, archaeologists actually do that. And the reason we know they do that is because they really try to find female warriors. Like, there was this obsession in the late 2020s, and no, actually just in the late 2020s, right? Like 2016, 2020 was the obsession, to try and find as many female warriors as possible. And they went after shield maidens, and they went after like Viking funerals, and whenever they found like a woman that was buried with the sword, they would automatically conclude that she was a warrior and she was there making a shield wall and she was fighting on the battlefield, you know? Even though like it was also probable that she was just buried with her husband's belongings. But the idea was like they were obsessed in finding female warriors, and if you can't tell by the skeleton, then how are they doing it? Like, obviously they were using the skeleton, right? And obviously, like, they were looking at the pelvic bone in order to make the difference if it's a man or a woman. And it's not only that, like, you can also use the size, you can also do other things. But anyway, this person got into cahoots with the law. Like, he actually got into trouble. And he got a knock on the door from the cops, and then a persecution letter for engaging in the speech of hate. And public belittling comments based on sexual orientation under the Swiss criminal code. Now, I just want to point out that he didn't attack a person, right? Like he didn't attack SRC maker, calling them a troon or no. Like, he basically stated a medical fact that yeah, like by looking at a skeleton, you can tell 500 years later if it was a man or a woman, right? So his crime was blasphemy. Like, literally, this is the way I view it. Like, he blasphemed against the ideology. He didn't attack a person. He didn't do anything. So, like, hate speech, under this circumstance, is literally blasphemy law. It's kind of like in 1700, he insulted the divinity of the king. Pretty much like that. Well, actually, I think like that would have been punished a little bit worse. But anyway, if true, it sounds just like another absurd use of a criminal charge to silence those who are opposing views. It's not even that. It's not to silence those with opposing views. It's to silence reality. Like, it's a medical fact, and they basically filed a lawsuit, and a judge and a jury found him guilty, which means that they're basically at war with truth. Again, like, I learned about this in med school. Like, it's not... But even then, you know, like, I can prove it, you know, bring me 5 skeletons, and I will tell you which one is a man and which one is a woman, right? Like, if you don't believe me, that I have these abilities, right? Bring me 5 skeletons, and I will easily tell you. It's like one of the simplest things to check. LGBTQI means lesbian. I love the fact that this publication actually has to explain, but yeah. LGBTQI means lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex. By the way, like, I love the fact that they keep trying to make the sausage longer by adding more and more shit to it. It's kind of funny because, like, as far as I know, and I actually went to the hospital and I worked there and I actually did meet intersex people, and not a single intersex people wants to be called intersex. Like, what are intersex people? Are people that are born with a cock and a pussy, right? Usually one of them is underdeveloped and the other one is functional. And so what the doctors usually do is that, well, they either stitch one or they cut it, like if you have like a vestigial penis or something like that. And obviously, like, you're not going to be able to use it in order so that it doesn't look horrible when you grow up. They just cut it, right? But those are people that are intersex, and almost all the time, like, I've never heard about a case. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Maybe it does. Like, almost all of the time, they have one sex that's dominant. So, like, either they're female presenting and they have, like, a vestigial cock, or they're male presenting and maybe they have, like, a pseudo vagina or some shit, right? And almost all the time, with no exception, like, I've never heard of a different case, like, they identify as the dominant sex. If I'm not mistaken, Lady Gaga, maybe one of them, like, there was a controversy with Lady Gaga being found to have a cock in a video. Like, she had a bulge. And I think, like, in an interview, she actually stated that, yeah, like, she's got this condition, right? Like, she's not transgender. She was born that way, and she's basically saying it's none of people's business and blah, blah, blah. I will have to check, because I'm not sure if it was her or some other actress. But still, the thing is, like, these people, they don't identify as intersex. There's no, like, intersex community, you know? Like, they don't do activism, and probably they don't want even people doing activism on behalf of them. Like, these are people that are born with a genetical abnormality, which usually they fix, they live with it by identifying as whatever dominant sex that is. So many Americans are allied with the EU and attempt to introduce such anti-free speech laws in the United States. Others are speaking in Europe and inviting the EU to hit U.S. company with sanctions. I think like when this article was written, it was 2022, right? So like since then, a lot of things have changed, especially with Donald Trump winning elections and with the Bud Light protest and a lot of pushback, especially in the United Kingdom and Sweden, and the whole trans rave is going away. But this article is a little bit backwards, right? So it's a little bit from the past, and so like the writer didn't know this. Yet they remain brave free speech advocates and groups and blah blah blah. Yeah, this was to me really fascinating because this is nothing short than an Inquisition. It's basically going after someone for issuing blasphemy, right? Like being against the ideology. In a secular society, it should be a little bit weird, but it is what it is. SRC Maker, thank you for the $10. All I know is that these people in my community make my fucking life so much harder. I'm not going out with those other trans women, they just annoy me. I just want to be trans and be me and be left alone. Again, I think it's the culture, right? Like if you have a culture shaped around politics and the politics themselves are very annoying to people, then, well, SRC Baker, thank you for another $20. Also, have I ever asked you or anyone in the chat or Discord to call me a woman or call me a she? No, I don't care whatever others think, only how I feel about me. But I also try to look as womanly as possible, so I can give my genetics. Yeah, it's a thing like a lot of trans people that are like, it's a ma'am, and they're not even trying to pass, right? South Park made fun of that, and then they get confrontational, which leads me to believe that part of their identity is to be confrontational. But speaking of like the way you present yourself, it kind of reminds me of a situation with Black Pigeon Speaks. I don't know how many people remember him. Black Pigeon Speaks was an alt-right individual, right? Well, actually, I don't think he identifies as alt-right, but he was a very doom-scrolling kind of guy. You know, like he always talked about the graveyard of Western civilization and blah blah. And he was also a very interesting chap, very nice. He lived in Japan, liked pigeons, right? And I was talking to him, and he told me that he's a vegan. And this actually took me aback a little bit. It's like, wait, what do you mean you're a vegan? Right? Because like I'm finding about this after a couple of years. Like, he's a vegan. And he told me, yeah, no, I'm a vegan. It's like, oh, so you're a vegan that's right-wing? Like, what the fuck? Because like usually vegans are left-leaning for the sole reason that people that enjoy moralizing and they enjoy grandstanding, like they would join the dominant culture, right? So like if you're moralizing and grandstanding, you join the left because that's pretty much what they do. And so most vegan activists are leftists. But he came up very weird to me because he wasn't moralizing or grandstanding. He was just a vegan by himself. And he wasn't trying to change society. It's like, no, he wanted to live life without eating meat. Well, that's interesting, right? So like it reminded me of SRC Baker, which also wants to be trans without forcing society to bend to her will. And it's like, okay, I mean, if every single trans person was like that, there wouldn't be an issue. I mean, like, probably there would be an issue, because the thing is, like, a lot of parents, they don't enjoy finding out that their child is not going to have grandchildren. Like, that's mostly the biggest problem, right? But, like, the issue would be constrained to the families that have this situation happening. It wouldn't be this societal-wide thing where instead of talking about the inflation, instead of talking about the economy, or the Jeffrey Epstein files, we're talking about transgender issues. You know, like if you asked me like 20 years ago about the subject that I'll probably never spend my day talking about was transgender issues. It's like it's such a nonsensical thing, such a bizarre thing. And yet the entire society and the entire institutions like have decided that, oh, this is what we need to talk about because every single corporation was promoting it, every single politician in Europe was talking about it, every single newspaper, right? Every single activist was talking about it. And it's so weird, like how they made something that's a very fringe minority of people, they made it more important than the economy. I would still never understand this, but whatever. Hello, Culpis. Welcome to the show. I'm not deleting anyone's comments. If you're getting your comments deleted, know that it's not from me. The energy devoted to talking about this over the last few decades is insane. Well, I mean, the reason people talked about this is because they were forced to talk about it, right? Like, it's a little bit difficult when you send your kid to school and then you watch a TikTok video and you see teachers talking about cracking eggs and how they're actually invested in teaching kids the LGBTs rather than any DBCs. Like, any parent is going to start talking about it, right? Like, when it is in your neighborhood. And on top of that, you also have like corporations forcing you to choose pronouns into emails, right? Like banking corporations and other places. They would say it's like, okay, when you put your email down, you need to write your pronouns, and if you don't, you get fired. Gina Carano got into trouble because she refused to do this. And so this is why people talked about it, right? And of course you had trans tits in front of the White House, something that I don't think I will forget as long as I'm alive. But yeah, anyway, right, I think like this is pretty much it that I wanted to talk about the trans Inquisition. In the meantime, we can discuss other interesting situations, like for instance, this absolute mental retardation that Germany has been doing, which is to destroy their energy sector. And so it's one thing to hear about it, it's another thing to see it. But as you can see here, you got Germany, which is blowing up the last cooling tower of another decommissioned nuclear power plant. Now, obviously, blowing up stuff that's decommissioned isn't the problem. The problem is that they had to decommission it in the first place. So because the Soviet Union was incapable of boiling water, the rest of Europe is not allowed to use cheap energy. And the reason they don't want to use cheap energy is very simple. And I will explain environmentalism now and why it exists in a way that it was probably never explained to you before. Europe, back in the day, like 1 or 2 generations ago, was extremely industrialized. Now, when you talk about industrialization, a lot of us just don't know the negative effects. And that is like an insane amount of pollution. And when I'm talking about it, it's like cities filled with smog. Like, literally, you'd go out and you'd cough your lungs out. It was very toxic, right? Like, people would genuinely get sick. And so that's one of the reasons why people started caring about the environment. Because, like, if you look at China, like, let's look at the... Look at a city that's genuinely polluted. Okay, I think like this is a... Right, so imagine living in a place like this, right? And they existed in Europe. Maybe not to this extent, but especially the smog was real. So a lot of people, like, they moved to the countryside or they legitimately despised living in such pollution. And this is where, like, the idea of environmentalism became popular because, again, like, people genuinely wanted cleaner air. That's how it all started. And also, like, the cars back then would pollute a lot, right? Like, I remember a car during the Cold War era, or after the Cold War era, right? It would go like boom, 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 and like literally black shit would come out of it, right? And all the cars were like that. And when you imagine like thousands of cars like that, yeah, like it would make the city a very difficult place to breathe. And so environmentalism becomes a thing. But the moment they realized, okay, if we can make carbon a sin, right? Like carbon is the issue. And you realize that carbon is connected to every single human activity imaginable. Like there is no human activity that you do which doesn't consume some carbon. Even the cow farts, right? Like even eating, everything is carbon. And so if you control carbon, you can literally create a socialist economy without actually calling it socialist. Well, it's not really fair to say socialist economy because socialism would imply that no one owns any private property, right? Like this was what happened in the Soviet Union. Like literally no one was allowed to own private property. So it's a fascist economy. That's a better way of putting it, right? Like where the government controls everything. And so like the government can say, well, this company is promoting carbon. And so you need to either produce less, or you need to increase taxation on it, or you can ban it, right? Like all of a sudden, if you're looking at through the prism of CO2 as the sin, the government would have the strings to pretty much do whatever they want with the economy, right? Like they can restructure the economy, they can do whatever. And so in a world where the Soviet Union just fell and the concept of socialism was incredibly unpalatable, and not to mention fascism was also unpalatable, the idea of environmentalism gives the governments the ability to not just control the economy. And by the way, like Europe historically has been all about control. We're not the United States, right? Like we do not believe in freedom in Europe. We're the nation of we're the continent of monarchies and absolutism. And also like ideologies like fascism and Nazism and communism, like all these things don't come from America, they came from Europe. The ability to take advantage over a genuine grievance that people had, which were incredibly dirty cities, and mix it up with something that allows politicians to control the economy was incredibly desirable. And so when you look at Germany and other nations that had nuclear power bypasses all of this, right? Because all of a sudden it's like, well, if carbon is a sin, then nuclear power would be clean. And they can't allow it to exist. Because if they allow it to exist, it defeats the purpose of them controlling the economy. They talked about taxing cyclists more because they breathe more and they produce carbon. Get the fuck out, really? Did they? Again, I'm not surprised. Like the government now, it's ever since it realized that it can generate money by taxing people, they had an incentive, right? So like if the incentive is to tax people, then the government is not about representing the people, but it's about exploiting the people, which again goes to the factory setting, which Europe was always since the monarchy, that there are two groups of people. There are the aristocrats, you know, the ones that go on the private jets, the ones that are your better, the ones that are above the common people. Then you have the clergy, which now are the NGOs and the journalists, and also like the anointed ones, which justify why the aristocrats do what they do, right? Like these are the fact checkers, the social media CEOs. And finally you have the peasantry, and the peasantry are the ones that get to be exploited. This is why I keep saying to Sargon, you need to leave the United Kingdom. You need to fuck off. Yeah, but that's like running away. No, that's like defunding the people that are exploiting you. Anyway. What about the argument that nuclear power plants can be exploited as a nuke without a nuke in military conflicts? I mean, yeah, they can, but like, do you think like Germany is going to make the argument like doesn't even hold, because they're not shutting down their nuclear powers because they're pressured by France, Britain, and the United States to turn down their nuclear reactors due to concerns that Germany may go rogue, right? And not to mention, it's not really that easy. I mean, look, Ukraine does have nuclear reactors, right? And they're not really turning them into nukes. A nuclear weapon is not really as powerful as people think, for the sole reason that no one wants to use it. No one wants to cross that Rubicon, right? And there's like multiple reasons why not. If you nuke a nation and then you want to occupy it, so let's say Russia nukes Ukraine. Okay, if you manage to take over a nuclear wasteland, what exactly do you gain? You gain nothing, right? Like you rule over radioactive waste. And on top of that, you created a level of horror, right? You created an atrocity that the entire world is shocked. And trust me, you know, this is not a shock that would go away. Like if a nation was to nuke someone else now, it would create such a shock and horror in the international community that the person, like the individual that pressed the red button would definitely be killed. Like if he wouldn't be convicted in trial, he would get assassinated. And it probably wouldn't be like from another nation, it would be like from his own country, like his own factions would basically want his head, just to ease off some of the international shit show that would fire. France pioneered the solution to aristocrats. I'm actually curious if like anyone did it before France. I think like there was a peasant revolt in England where they managed to catch a boy king. I forgot his name though. And the peasants almost got concessions in the beginning, but then they overstayed. No, sorry, some of them went back. The other ones overstayed. And then they had another meeting with the king, and the peasant leader was being extremely disrespectful. He basically spat in front of the king. He didn't call him majesty, he called him boy. And he had his throat slashed. And that's when the king took control of the peasantry. He said that they're leaderless, they should follow him. Escorted them out of the city where his men were waiting in ambush, and they killed them all. So, yeah, there were like attempts before the French Revolution. Another continent-wide campaign is the only way to bring back some level of pragmatism, because they will have to rebuild everything again. What Tyler's Rebellion? See, like people know what I'm talking about. The problem with the European Union is that it's not democratic, right? And so you would need to have right-wing governments in almost all of the European states. And even then, a lot of the environmentalism is already made into legislation. They have like Fit for 2035 agenda and some other bullshit. And so I don't think it's going to change. I think it's going to go forward. I think the living expenses of people is going to gradually increase. And I don't know what will happen. It could actually be sustainable. You know, like the Soviet Union managed to impoverish the population, and yet they withheld for a couple of decades. And so it is possible for Europe to genuinely become a museum, completely destroy its economy, and still manage for a couple more decades to survive on inertia. Another thing that I see the European Union is doing, it's like, okay, you're destroying German energy when other nations are focusing on AI and they're trying to build infrastructure and servers. And the thing with data centers and data servers, like, they're insanely consuming. Like, in America, they actually are allowing now AI companies to build their own energy, like to build their own power plants and stuff. And it's because of the massive level of requirement for the AI to function. And they don't want it. The European Union that doesn't want it. It's like, okay. They're making their own grifts, though. Like, the government is buying... like they're making like this huge wave that actually Europe wants to have AI, and they're going to subsidize. And I looked at how many graphics cards they're subsidizing. It was like a 10% compared to what OpenAI is having. And it's like, well, that looks a little bit like a grift from my taxpayer money then. To be fair though, in a way it may be good that we don't have AI. A lot of people don't know that in places where you have like data centers, the price of electricity goes up. But seriously, like they're hoarding so much electricity that it's very difficult to produce for them. And so if you have a major data center in your state or in your area, yeah, like the electric price explodes. It is what it is. AI is a grift. Kinda yes, kinda no. I will explain why. So, right now, a lot of people are pointing out that AI isn't profitable, right? Like, there's no AI company which actually manages to survive on a subscription. And that's true. The thing is, though, what actually costs an AI company, the price is spent on training a new AI, right? So, like, when they're training ChatGPT 4 to ChatGPT 5, that's where the money is going in. When they're training ChatGPT 5 to ChatGPT 6, that's what's expensive. To just run the AI, like if OpenAI decided tomorrow, okay, we're not doing any more upgrades. This is the final version. We don't have any more money. This is it. It would actually become profitable, right? Because, like, you don't need that much electricity to just run the AI. And you also now have more technology, especially with this styled AI, and as technology advances, you can actually run AIs on laptops. Like, for example, Stable Diffusion. You can actually run Stable Diffusion on a laptop now, right? And so there are large language models which can be run on a laptop. SRC Maker runs a couple, right? And he was telling me that I need to install Linux. I need to find the chat that can run it on Windows. But it is possible. And so this idea that AI is not profitable, well, if you think about it, the railway wasn't profitable in the beginning. There may be, indeed, a fork in the road, and one road leads to AI having to stop advancing, and just like we use it as we use it, and it is too useful now to ignore. I mean, when I do a Google search, it's absolutely useless. And if I want to find out something, I use the AI, you know, like we can do an experiment. Like, let's do a cooking recipe, right? And let's see how you can do mac and cheese on an F induction stove and cook it to perfection, right? And so you use Google, I use AI. Let's see who manages to find the recipe faster. Just an example. Or I want you to find out when does the nearest McDonald's opens in your state, right? Like, sorry, not in your state, but in your vicinity, right? So like find out which is the closest McDonald's to your area and at what hour does it open. I mean, my brother in Christ, if you use Google, I will manage before you even open the Google window, I already have the answer, right? And so like there is actual function for AI, translation. I mean, look at Twitter. Like for the first time, I understand the moonspeak of the Japanese people. I can actually go to all of my Japanese kumers, and I actually understand their ni-haos by clicking the translate button. Right? Like there's a lot of useful things for AI that many people are using it for, so you can't really say that it's useless. Of course, like there are other things that people use it for which is bad, like getting the AI to think for yourself. But when you want to find something right away, when you want something translated, and in some cases even when you want something drawn, AI is the go-to thing. It's a lot better than the search engine. Yeah, a lot of the AIs just hop on Google. But the thing is, like, they do it so fast, because, like, obviously, like, you can use Google to search, right? But if you're a person that cares about time, and you want to find out now, you're not going to go on Google and you get, like, 4 or 5 search results, and then you have to click through all of them, right? You just use the AI, and instantly you get a list. AI development, says Bad at Worst, is only profitable if it significantly improves other industries, or if the data is sold to the government. No, it can also be used for porn. Like, a lot of things became profitable because of porn. The streaming service, payment processors, like, there was a lot of things that simply took off because pornography. And if people can use it consistently for porn, it's going to be a very lucrative industry. And it doesn't, like, have to be necessarily for industries. Like, why can't it be for personal use? Anyway, US has enough nuclear waste to power all of the country for a century with newer plants. Maybe. I dream of the day that the AI replaces localizers. Here's the thing. This is why localizers aren't getting fired. I see a lot of people not getting it. You know, there's something about Westerners, and I'm sorry to say, you know, if you're a Westerner, this is about you, and it's not necessarily a criticism. It's not an accusation. It's just a criticism. You guys don't know how to see a grift. Like, for some reason, if a grift hits you in the back of the head, you just don't know what the fuck happened. The whole thing with the localizers. You need to understand, when someone is being a cheeky little shit and they're antagonistic online and they're going out of their way to piss people off, they do it because they know for sure they're not going to get fired, right? And so if you see localizers going around and being as antagonistic as possible, and they're trolling and they're saying like the most extremist shit imaginable, it's because they know that they're not going to get fired. And so why is it that they're not getting fired? Well, it's because most anime industries, right, they want to make money. And so if you're an anime studio right now and you're making modern anime, simply selling it in Japan is not profitable. You need to sell it to the wider audience. Like, you want the Americans to be able to watch it. In fact, like, you want the internet to be able to watch your anime, right? And so in order to do that, you have to sell it to Crunchyroll. Or you can sell it to Netflix, or you can sell it to Disney. Now, the thing is, it's just like when I upload a YouTube video, if I say faggot, I get my channel demonetized or taken down, right? So, the same way that I can't say faggot because there are terms of service and I could get into a violation, so too do people who make anime realize that there are certain things that if they say, or that if they allow, Netflix or Crunchyroll is going to ban them. And so the question is, what do they do? Because when you make an anime and you're spending millions of dollars in creating episodes, you can't find out, oh, well, you spend millions of dollars, but like Crunchyroll isn't going to air it. And then what do you do, right? Like, you want the certainty, you want the guarantee, and when you're making the anime, it's actually going to be aired on Crunchyroll. And so you hire a faggot, which is going to be the localizer. And the localizer, they're basically supposed to make it to make sure that the anime doesn't get banned by Netflix or blah, blah, blah. And the way they do it is that they're grifting, right? Like, their company is associated with Crunchyroll, and it's implied that if they take the commission, if they take a role for an anime, well, then that anime is very likely to pass. And so this is why they are able to be cheeky little shits online. This is why they're able to do all these things, and more importantly, it's why companies keep hiring them, right? They're not hiring them because they're good. They're not hiring them because they can't use AI. They're hiring them because they know that if they're on board, then Crunchyroll or Netflix is going to guarantee that the anime is going to be accepted. SRC Maker, thank you for another $5. Actually, that dude is correct. We in the States do have enough nuclear waste to power up current reactors. The fuel rods are dumped after only 50% fission. I don't think it's fission. I think it's fusion or fission. Okay, fission. Tactical Droid says that it seems wasteful. I'm pretty sure if it seems wasteful, it's because there's a scientific explanation for it. Maybe some safetyism. A lot of people don't like safetyism when it comes to nuclear reactors until you realize that, well, this is the reason why the Russians don't boil water, right? Like, usually I'm not all for safetyism, but in the case of nuclear reactors, I guess I'll have to be, because the damage of one melting down is incredibly high, right? Like, it is incredibly colossal, sorry. It's not just the fact that the people die in the reactor, it's also the fact that people 100 years later live in an exclusion zone. Like, you're literally just nuking your city whenever a nuclear reactor goes into meltdown. And so, there's probably a reason why they only use 50% of the rods. Fusion reactors aren't a thing yet. Okay, yeah. So no artificial suns, I guess. Nuclear power was regulated to death in the 70s before the famous incident. Just so an interesting video. Yeah, but I think like the Russians were not part of those regulations, right? If you watch the TV show Chernobyl, they explain it very well. They had something with the rods. They cut corners, whatever. God didn't want Russians to boil water. That's why they spawned them in Siberia. By the way, what happened to Tactical Droid? I see his name changed. Did you get banned? Did you become so antagonistic that YouTube itself decided to crack the hammer on you? When things go out of the nucleus, it's fission. When things go into the nucleus, it's fusion. Oh, now I understand. I see. So fusion is what's happening in the sun, right? See, I'm not really that dumb. We need Elon Musk to make X-rated movies or something where people can release non-leftist movie shows to break monopoly. It's very difficult. And I'm telling you this because I'm making a video game now, and I understand the level of censorship involved, which is something that I didn't get before, right? Like, before I was like, why isn't someone just making an edgy game anymore? Why isn't someone making another GTA? Why isn't someone making a Manhunt? because surely it will sell. And then you realize that the wall of censorship is colossal. I don't know about the movie industry, but I imagine it's just as big. So let's go through the motions, right? Like, let's say you want to make a video game. What is the level of censorship that you have to worry about? Well, first is the classical Visa and MasterCard, right? Like, this is something that came into discussion recently. But they don't have really, like, unless you're making an adult game, like, that's not the big worry. The big worry is the platforms, right? So, like, once you make your game, you need a place to distribute it. You need a platform, like Steam, for instance, right? And so Steam has terms of service. And their terms of service is usually no hate speech. No, I mean, it's a pretty big list, right? So let me think. It was like no hate speech, no stuff about religion, nothing to do with murdering or hurting children. Like that, there's a really big list of it, and this is why you don't see kids dying in video games anymore. If you remember Fallout 2, like, you could actually get the child killer perk, right? Now it's not okay. Okay, so basically, once you follow Steam's TOS, which is very vague, by the way, because, like, hate speech, like, what the fuck is that? Is Postal with hate speech? Like, theoretically, yes, but it's grandfathered in, so, you know, it's not recommended to make another Postal. And take into account that making a video game can cost, like, $30,000 or so. Like, no one is willing to put down that kind of money just to find out later that they can't sell their game. Okay, so Visa and MasterCard, first censorship. Steam is the second censorship. Then your publisher. Like, if you want to sell your video game to PlayStation, if you want to sell your video game to Switch, if you want to sell your video game to Xbox, they all have different terms of service. And you have to abide by those, right? So, like, you get censored by Steam, you get censored by Xbox and PlayStation, you get censored by your own publisher. Let's say you get a publisher like Ubisoft, you get a publisher like Blizzard, right? They all have their standards. Activision has its standards. Then you get censored by governments. Like, there are certain governments in the world that don't want smoking, right? Like, if you want a video game and you have, like, this general that smokes and he's, like, really cool and shit, you can't do that. You want to make a noir video game where you have a detective and the woman comes to the detective office and she's smoking. Can't do that, right? Drinking, another issue. So after you're done with those, so you're done with the government regulations, you're done with the platform regulations, you're done with Visa and MasterCard, and you have, like, all these censorships done, it's the staff. Especially in America, a lot of the staff, they will not work for you if they find out that the shit you're doing is controversial. I have a friend of mine that's a hentai developer, and they posted on X that they don't like Assassin's Creed Shadows. They posted something negative about that game. And the result was that his voice actresses, all of them, have said that they're leaving the project because they can't work for a bigot. So that's another thing that makes a company unable to make whatever game they want. And then you also have government grants or loans. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are aware about the ESG loans, but there's also other types of loans or government tax breaks, right? Like, if you make a video game like, what's it called? Dustborn managed to get money from the European Union and Canada. They got grants. But in order to access those grants, you need to have diversity, inclusivity, and equity. So yeah, as I mentioned before, like, if Elon Musk was to make a platform that he would allow every game to be made, well, there would be still jurisdictions, like, he would still have to deal with Visa and MasterCard, he would still have to deal with European law, and even then, like, there would be other platforms and there would be other regulations that people would still be forced to deal with. So, like, no, Elon Musk simply allowing people to have a platform like Steam where they could upload their video games, it will still not be enough. It will still not get rid of the censorship. It's so baked in right now that it's almost impossible to get rid of. SRC Baker, thank you for $5. Check your DM for details why fuel rods today's reactors are only 50% used. Nothing to do with safety. It's all because of a grift and stupid laws. So SRC Baker, pay attention. Here is wisdom. Only reason is the rods. Why the fuck do you even know all this? Holy shit. Only reason is the rods that only work in GE reactors is because they only work in Westinghouse reactors, and the rods, the uranium is arranged pellets. Once 50% of the pellets undergo fission, they no longer have critical mass and can no longer undergo fission at the rate needed to produce usable heat, also known as power. So they would have to be reprocessed to remove the spent pellets, and GE Westinghouse won't do that because it's a grift. They take a huge loss on the reactor built out, but they make money producing the fuel rods. Okay. Yeah, probably. I can't doubt you. I don't know. Sounds possible. Sounds very Eastern European. Yeah, we do have a nuclear physicist here. Is he looking for voice actresses? And you say nothing of value was lost? Of course something of value was lost. Dude, like, let me tell you why voice acting is really annoying, right? Like, when you have a video game and you have a voice actress, you don't just have the voice actress talking to a computer and that's it. No. Like, what happens is you give the voice actress a script, right? And she then reads the script. And then you have to go line by line and literally just cut the line and make a new file, right? So, like, if the actress says, hello, my name is Susie, let's go to the mall. You need to cut the file, and you, like, have one file that says hello, you have another file that says my name is Susie, and you have a third file that says, let's go to the mall. Now, imagine doing this for, like, 12-hour footage, right? Like, 12-hour audio where the actress talks nonstop. And you have to go and you have to, like, manually, because there's no software to do it, you have to manually cut it, and then you have to manually assign it so that in the video game, when the character speaks and they're saying the stuff, right, like, it needs to fit. Every single line, it needs to fit with the dialogue. So you're doing this, and it's probably something that takes 1 month, depending on how much dialogue you have. If it's a dialogue-heavy game, yes, this is literally grunt work. Like, you have to mix and match every single thing. You don't have AI to automate. There's no such thing yet. Or if there is, I don't know. I'm not a AAA studio. I don't have it, and neither does my friend. And so imagine if he has like 3 voice actresses, right? And during the middle of the thing, and not to mention, they usually, like, a voice actress actually takes a lot in order to record. If she does it properly and actually puts her soul into it, it takes a lot in order to record all the line, right? Because, like, she doesn't want to do a dry reading. Like, she actually wants to put her voice into it. And yeah, you can have, like, voice actors that need rewrites and they need retakes, but that's neither here nor there. Now, imagine you're been working like this for 2 weeks, right? And you're almost done, and then the voice actress contacts you and says, yeah, I'm dropping the project. Now, you can't really say no big loss. It's a really big loss, and it pisses you the fuck off because you invested so much work, and it's tedious, grunting work, and you realize that this is time you're never going to go back. The entire production is pushed down, right? Because you have a team. Like, one person does the voice acting, and another person then needs to set the music. Like, you have the sound guy that is going to have to balance the audio and add music and sound effects and shit. And now he doesn't have a job because you don't have the voice lines ready yet. And so, no, it's like, this is what it means to be held hostage by the staff. Like, this is why a lot of AAA studios are genuinely afraid, especially during production, to piss off the leftist staff. Because if the leftist staff leaves during the middle of production, well, there's a lot of money lost. Like, take into account that you probably already paid her, right? Like, a lot of voice actresses ask money in the beginning. Now you can say, well, hold on a little bit, doesn't he have a contract? Probably does, but, like, who the fuck is going to file an international lawsuit over, like, a $30 or, like, how much the voice actress asks, you know? Frank Jupiter, I would like to personally thank you for $5. Chat, thank Frank Jupiter for the donation. Let's do a hype train for him. A quote from my old wrestling coach that applies to the safetiest. the best time to break an arm is as a kid. That's when you heal the fastest. That's actually very true. Yes, like I think the medical terminology is green bones. Green bones. SRC Baker, thank you for $10. Chat, let's do a hype train for him as well. Reason I know the stupid shit from witchy magic shit to nuclear engineering is that I'm a fucking autistic engineer school graduate with way too many engineering and science credits. Jesus. Yeah, but like, even I used to do physics, but like really nuclear, it's so fucking boring. Learning to boil water. Martinez, you don't get the hype train. Chat, don't do a hype train for Martinez because he's Romanian. Do you know that the game highlighted in that your game is highlighted in another game, Project Werewolf? Do you know that this is literally the game I was talking about with my friend with his voice actors, right? And yes, I know. I would like to thank that the Project Werewolf team did indeed promote my game. Unfortunately, they promoted it 1 year earlier, so my game isn't out yet. But with any luck, by December it should be finished, and then I'll be working on a demo. I want the demo out before launching my game. We're in closed beta now. There are a couple of people playing my video game in closed beta. They're bug testing and beta testing. Anyway, right. Thank you, chat, for watching. I need to upload videos on my main channels. I made a very interesting Gunnar prayer on my secondary channel. Hopefully you guys will check it out. And I will see you guys later. Take care.